Hey guys, welcome back yet again to Final Sector. We are somewhat nearing the end-ish of the year. It feels a bit weird to get to this point, and we have kept up with everything.
Yeah.
So hey,
Very odd.
little clap on the back, I think, for those of you that have stuck around to everything we've been releasing. We do appreciate you, but we are here to talk about the next Grand Prix on the calendar. We have had a little break to catch our breath, but we are now back into the full swing of things, and we are visiting a humdinger. We are visiting Singapore, one that some people think is like another Monaco, but others think is actually really interesting. But mostly, it's one the drivers say is very, very taxing and very, very difficult. So, given how intense that fight is throughout the field, maybe not at the top, but where everywhere else we look, there's a fight. This could be an interesting one. Yeah, first off, what are you excited for? What are you looking forward to here? There's a bit going on.
Yeah, I really like Singapore. It's one of my favorites on the calendar. It's, again, like you say, it's very, very similar to Monaco in the terms that it's a tight street circuit. It's very technical, but because it's high attrition, it's always hot and humid. In terms of like length of time, it's always one of the longest as well.
Yes,
so
true.
The focus required is always really, really high. And as you said, it's, very, very taxing. You need really high downforce. It's just, it's hard. It's a really hard race for the drivers. And that brings about mistakes. And we do see a lot of safety cars, red flags, those sort of things here.
For sure.
Which in itself, you obviously don't want to see a lot of accidents happen, but it does change the structure of the race.
Yeah.
You have to factor somewhere like here. There's a very high chance there's going to be a safety car, and how does that play into strategy? And because it is such a high downforce circuit and a lot of corners and a lot of braking zones, it's hard on tires, and it's because it's so hot, the tires overheat and they grain really easily. Pit stop strategies come into it a hell of a lot. And just in terms of how the track looks at night, I think it's a gorgeous track just to watch the cars go around. So
it is. It truly is. One I think we're going to visit one day. Presumably it's on the calendar for a while. You can see us making a step over there.
Legit, it's like outside of the Australian Grand Prix, which I've now gone to. This is the next one I wanted to go to. Like out of all the others, Singapore, I really want to go to the Singapore Grand Prix. I think it'd be incredible. But it's going to be a good one. I don't even think... I think Max will probably do well, but I don't even think Red Bull have a massive advantage here. I think just because of the nature of the circuit.
So I guess that's... I wouldn't call it the leading headline, but a lot of what I've heard, even after Italy, I think Red Bull were also saying this. They were saying, look, if we can do well and win Singapore, we'll basically be untouchable. And I think most of the other teams agree that all the tracks after that coming up, basically everyone else is like, we're going to have to get real lucky with something. But Singapore, although the Red Bull should be strong because it's so technical, because even like the weather, humidity can throw such an oddball, something the teams haven't had to deal with. Other teams, still here and there bringing little things. It's a little bit open here. We have, an unknown in the McLaren, which has been strong kind of circuits like this. And we have the Aston, which could suddenly be really strong in a circuit like this. The Mercedes, which seems to be a bit of a dark horse. We've come off the back of the Ferrari being strong, but Ferrari have been honest to say they've never been that strong here, and they don't expect their car to be good here. So, although they may still, perform well off the back of a positive weekend last time out, you still don't expect them to have it. I wouldn't put my money on them, you know what I mean?
They have
looking.
They have, like, in recent history actually done pretty well here though, so maybe they're just tempering expectations a bit, but I'm in the same boat. I think just given everything we've seen this year, that car shouldn't be as quick as some of the others mentioned. But I know a lot of drivers, this is one of the tracks a lot of drivers actually say is one of their favorites for that reason, because it is just it's so tricky to get right. Yeah,
it should hopefully lead to some good racing. And we do have actually some track changes here. It's been a little bit since we've had one of the, let's call it the more major overhauls of a circuit, in terms of certain sections being completely modified. So towards the back half of the track, essentially turns 16 and 17 have entirely been removed. What this essentially means is the track won't go along the waterfront. So if you can kind of imagine you're coming towards that end section, they would kind of take a right and then a left chicane and then run down until they get to a tunnel overpass, which then they turn left into and go under and then turn back right towards the kind of end section. So they've basically removed, I guess, that little complex to the case where you just keep going straight before then. I don't really know if they've said exactly why they're doing it. Like, they say it's because it should potentially help with overtaking, even though, to be honest, for as technical as a track this is, you still do kind of get overtaking and passing because the strategy can pull into things. But I think it's just one where they saw a chance just to make a change. They could just take something out that, that section we see is normally just follow the leader through there. So they're thinking, look, let's just take it out anyway. Even if nothing comes of it, well, we weren't getting anything from it anyway.
Apparently, was it turn 18, whatever, the second part of that complex is apparently pretty high rate of safety, like accidents that cause safety cars through that section.
Yes, it is.
So taking that away also reduces the chance of accidents happening through there.
It's
obviously.
true.
I mean, it doesn't reduce it; it completely gets rid of it because it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
So
it's because it's quite a tricky corner. It's like a tightish left, but it's not one where if you start to lose it, you have time to go down the runoff road. Because he's going under a bridge, there's a barrier that pops out quite aggressively at you. And a lot of drivers will just tap that, and as soon as the driver is stuck there, they have to basically red flag or safety car because it's a very small tunnel, so they immediately block half the track. So I've seen many someone get stuck there. So it could reduce the chance here a little bit. For all we know, maybe people being a bit more brave, trying to overtake more, taking more speed into that section could actually cause more incidents. It should also make qualifying more interesting as well, I think. Although there was some skill through that section, I guess they'll be thundering a lot harder into a section they've not really been in before. So we could see some people really try to throw it in there. But we'll have to see. Look, I don't think this is a change I'm like, oh, why are they doing that? They're taking away the iconic under the bridge area. It's like, no, I can see this. It makes sense. It's a bit of Albert Park-esque, trying to, maybe change something that can be more of a straight just to see what it does.
They have increased the lap count, obviously, because there's less time. It's like they're predicting about a 10-second. It's also less distance. I think that's the biggest thing. Is it's done by distance, isn't it?
Yes.
But yes, it's they're predicting about a 10 seconds less per lap by turning into a straight, and it's gone from 59 laps to 62 laps to account for the slightly shorter distance the track is now. So what it does mean is because there's less corners, less braking zones, there's teams are already saying there's probably going to be less stress on the tires, because they were saying even during qualifying laps and things like that, by the time they get to the third sector, the tires are just overheated and
it was
absolutely
a big thing
cooked.
Here, yeah.
And they're saying that's going to help a lot for qualifying laps, which it could make it less interesting personally.
Yeah.
Part of the entertainment was, seeing which drivers and which teams could keep the tires in the optimum window. Like, you'd see someone who's slowed through sector 1 and then they just like purple because they've saved the tires for the rest of the lap, or you see purple and there's like, oh, they've just lost like 8/10 through that third sector because they've absolutely cooked the tires. But I feel like that might be that it might sort of remove that a little bit.
And it could be that maybe a team that maybe would have suffered in those tires is a team that might actually.
Yep.
I'm trying to think about positives, right? Let's say Red Bull we think might be the best on their tires in qualifying. Well, then, hey, everyone else might see this as an advantage. It's one less thing that Red Bull have an advantage over keeping their tires together. I don't think they've necessarily had that, but I guess I can see with them being so good and away during the race, theoretically that would mean, especially because they normally set their car up for more of a race car, then it might especially be already decent through there. With someone like a Ferrari in that third sector,
they could be more aggressive
suffered a bit more.
through. Yeah, that's
exactly.
true. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Fair enough.
So we'll see. Anyway, change has changed. I don't think I'm against it or for it, but I'm not. I'm kind of for it. I'm not seeing the exact benefits for it yet, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
There are a few other quick things I'll go through here. So this is actually I found a few Red Bull facts somehow. I was like, oh, I found a page that has a few little facts on stats.
Nice.
So at this weekend, Max is attempting to win a Grand Prix at his 24th different circuit, which would basically surpass Michael Schumacher's tally for that Max and Michael hold for second right now, and then he will be chasing down Lewis, who still holds the record at 31 different circuits, which I didn't know, but that's a lot of circuits.
That's a lot of circuits.
So Max is chasing down that number.
Yep. I can't believe Max hasn't won here, if I'm honest.
Yes.
It seems
Yes,
like,
he
you know,
hasn't.
Red Bull's always been strong at places like Monaco, and they feel like they've always been
Yes.
pretty
'Cause
strong at
Checo last year
Singapore.
had the lights to end victory here. I read that as well. So
Yeah.
that's how he didn't get it. Apparently, there is a change to the FIA technical directive that's trying to further clamp down on flexi wings. You might have seen a few articles, shorts on YouTube and that about how teams are still getting around tests. It isn't that they're doing this to, clamp out people doing things illegal. The hard thing about these flexi wings is that often they do things under extreme, basically, wind and aero
Yeah,
pushing on them. You can only simulate that so much with a car that's not moving. So although they can do weights, they can do machines that bend them, it's never going to replicate, having a giant tunnel that's blasting hurricane winds at the car. So it seems like they're trying to clamp down a little more. So you'll probably hear some chatter about that if you're tuning into things like practice. They'll probably talk about that a little bit.
There's a few teams that have come out and said they'll have to make some small changes. As far as I've seen, like every team was in support of it. There's nothing major that's going to be changed.
I think they all know when you see an onboard shot of a wing bending, they go, it's not supposed to do that, but technically they got around the test. So
remember the Alpine wing that was doing this back in
was
it Baku or something?
Yeah, something like that. And we still do have Liam Lawson in the car, so I think there's a little note to see how well he does. If you haven't already, check our debrief of the Italian Grand Prix, where we did talk about that situation a fair bit, because it's quite interesting. We do, of course, wish Daniel Ricciardo to get better, but I think I've said before, Lawson's quite a likable guy, and I hope he does well, and gives Red Bull a bit of a difficult issue, because even if this weekend he comes out and gets points, I think they've got some thinking to do what they're going to do, because that's quite a good performance from the young kid.
Yeah,
so,
he'll be here and probably at Japan, because it's back-to-back, so there's a very, 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 very slim chance that Ricciardo will be good for them as well. So he's getting a really good extended run to really show Red Bull and the Red Bull program.
Possibly others as well if Red Bull can't hold him, what he can do, right?
I think they've already kind of confirmed, this could go into another topic, but I think they've already basically confirmed Ricciardo for next year, but
they've soft confirmed, but there are both of those seats still are not technically closed down, and I think now for good reason, maybe they're pending their time for it.
Yeah.
But all the drivers can do in the car, both him and Yuki, of course, is try to both score. That's really what they're trying to do here.
Yep.
So
they are bringing apparently quite a big upgrade, I saw. So for this race, so maybe that'll go.
A few of those midfield and lower teams seem to bring their last kind of bigger upgrade here as well for the year, before they kind of then switch to next year. So again, at a track like this, it could completely change something up. We'll have to see how it goes. But onto that topic, of course, predicting who's going to finish where. We do have our predictions. We came off the back of last weekend where you, despite being much closer to what actually happened, we still ended up getting the same points.
It's the greatest injustice in human history. Where I should have had 5 points if it went Leclerc then Sainz, but because it went Sainz then Leclerc, I get 2 points, less than half the amount of points. And
this is where people dredge back our
Hamilton and Albon, and you get the same amount of points as me. That is an injustice. Injustice
people
for
are going to
Michael
look back
on Twitter.
to our
get it trending.
To recap the points, we both did end up just getting +2, so that puts me at 28 and yourself on 25.5. So that gap as the season nears the end starts to look pretty big.
By the way, I'm gonna contest this. If you win at the end of the year, I'm contesting the championship. And
on what grounds?
On the grounds that I should have gotten more than 2 points for being considerably closer for this weekend. It's about as baseless as the other championship lawsuits going on at the moment, but
yes, that's a humdinger to read into. But without further ado, we do need our random position, which is P7 for this week. We've had a lot in this top 10, which makes it tricky, because you could think someone from the lower, is this going to be the top lower midfield driver, or will all the drivers from the other teams kind of finish near the top?
I think you could have a couple of big people retire. I think it's a very very real chance. Somewhere like here, you could have a couple of the big boys tap out, particularly in a race as attritional as this, particularly on the cars as well. You have mechanical failures, but you also just have someone can very easily get in a tangle and take their car out. Or have a slight spin.
First lap, almost always someone goes off.
Remember the was at the time when the three cars was the two Ferraris and a Mercedes or a Red Bull or
was a Red
something. It
Bull.
was a Red Bull, and they all
it was
came
Max
together.
in the middle of
That's
Kimi
right.
and Vettel.
Kimi
and that's
and
when
Vettel,
Vettel's
yes,
championship
yep.
hopes went down the toilet.
Yes, that's right. So
Vettel going backwards around the track with oil spilling out the side of the car.
Yeah, that's right. But it's
Hamilton breezing around the outside. Yes.
it could very easily happen up front. So what are the teams again?
I don't know. I'm trying to think, like, who normally finishes back there? I'm gonna go Russell. Like, when I think through, I go like, well, Alpine, but then I don't think there's a lot of confidence on Alpine this weekend. But then who's behind Alpine? It's like Haas or
Haas won't be there.
Alfa Romeo or Alfa Tauri or
Will get Albon?
Alboni's. Yeah, that's. I mean, they got that longer straight. He could send it in quality, hold up the train.
I think he's just good enough to get into the points every race at this point. Like,
That's what people are saying. That car's not one to be considered as an outlier. That's just where it is, right?
Piastri. Why not? We'll go Piastri.
Yeah.
Even though I think he could be stronger than that.
Yeah. But it's hard because you see so many drivers which could be strong. I think your Piastri and my Russell is very similar thinking.
Because I could also see Russell up there, and I'm like thinking, maybe Alonso, but it's like Alonso could very well be up there as well. It's like, well,
he could really be up there?
Do I put Stroll in there then? And it's like, well, no, I don't have enough confidence in Stroll to get higher than P8.
If Stroll is a P7, Alonso needs to be a P1 or 2.
Yeah, true.
I think. Hey, if you're listening, let us know. I think this is the hardest one we've had. I mean, some of the lower positions can just be like a bit of a crapshoot, but you still got a few names.
Yeah.
This is. So, you know what? We sometimes go in sync for the first one, but hell, you go first. P1, what have you got? You going to surprise me, or are you going to go... They're going to do it and you do the rest of the year?
Not yet. Nah, we're going to go Max again.
Okay.
It is actually one I considered for being one of the ones I don't put Max in, because I think, like I've said, it's highly attritional, and this is where, mechanical failures start to happen, and he's obviously been caught up in that accident, getting pincered by those Ferraris in the past at the front of the grid, so it can happen very easily. But yeah, I think it's not yet. I think there's other tracks later on where he could either struggle a little bit more, or potentially maybe I'm sort of waiting for that car to show any signs of an issue before making a decision. But yeah, I mean, for now, he's just gonna kill it, isn't he? Like, he's so in tune with the car, and you have to be.
The money's still on it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have to be to drive this place. So, yeah, Max P1. So I'm curious if this is your week where you've.
Well, let's look at the facts, right? I might have opened this podcast by saying, hey, we're thinking maybe if it's going to happen. And yes, we're saying, I think the rule we said was, look, if he's not going to win it, we have to say he's not on the podium.
Correct.
Right?
That's
so
what you said.
It's almost like, look, even if this is the track where maybe he's P2, P3 or something, he's not my P1 for that reason that he's not there. And even if it is just an offshoot, he did have some of those wear and temperature concerns at the end of the Italian Grand Prix.
He did.
So I'm thinking, look, if I'm going to go for it, like others, you might go with somewhere like Mexico, where the altitude is a bit different, so things can be thrown up in the air. But hell, if we're going to pick it...
Yeah. Or
yes, and if I've got this lead anyway, part of it is I have this partial lead. Even if I blow it out this week, that's fine, because then I know that you've got to kind of gamble some way. And if it does pay off, well, then hey, you deserve the win, so stuff it, right? It's like it's a win-win for the show.
Yeah.
But it's still letting me to think, right, who the hell do I think is going to be for the remainder of the podium? And I'm like, this is a bad weekend to do it for that, because this is really hard.
There's like 3 or 4 teams that could be in there, yeah.
I know. Like, do you think Checo, King of the Streets, is going to return to form here? Do you think that McLaren, which has shown some real glimpses and has, genuinely challenged Max at certain circuits before, particularly at the start, could do so here, even if Max is there at the start or if Checo's there at the start? Do you think the Aston, suddenly could show some of that pace that they had in similar circuits as somewhere like they had, at Jeddah, and Alonso, who still seems to be biting for something?
Yeah.
So I've gone a bit of a mixed bag. Kind of put some names up and went, let's do it. And if it doesn't work, then, hey, it's okay. So P1, I've gone with the man who I think is going to be strong, who I think finally deserves his time in the limelight. It's the man in the orange. It's not the Aussie this time. It's Lando Norris.
Lando Norris, yeah.
I think it's hard to put him by being strong at a circuit like this with his recent performances. Yes, they've been a bit rocky, but that's part car, part weather, part track. This, when you have now had enough time to see where that current driver's been strong, you'd think if they don't, kill it here really, or even second is the best team, I would be pretty surprised because of what we've seen. It would have to be other teams really getting their stuff together and challenging higher up. So I've got him in P1, but P2 before I go on, I want yours.
Okay,
One,
I guess yours is more interesting now that you haven't got max P1. So
yeah.
P2, I'll echo your thoughts. I've got Norris P2. I think McLaren will be.
So I'm not totally crazy.
Exceptionally, yeah. I think they'll be exceptionally strong here again, like you say, in recent form and tracks of this nature. I think they'll be very, very strong. And yeah, I think there's not much to say. If Norris isn't on the podium, I think, or at least fighting for the podium, I think, or at least a McLaren fighting for the podium, I think it would be a step backwards for them given where 100%. They were. So Norris P2.
Well, there you go. My P2, maybe I still have a bit of faith in my boy. I have gone Checo, even though again he won. You're putting an odd face on. That's weird.
I'm just thinking, you don't think he'll get past Norris then?
No.
Okay.
So I think he will be strong here, but I think last year he didn't really have much competition. Whereas here it's shown that it's still going to show whether in tooth and nail he can pull it together. I mean, he had that stint, near the front in Zandvoort, and even then he didn't necessarily seem to run away with it when he thought that would have been his moment to go, hey, if I got something special, let's, at least show it there. So I think with it being a difficult circuit with everyone else so much closer, especially if maybe he still hasn't got the teeth in it in quali, when other drivers like Norris, like Alonso, like Hamilton, like even a Sainz or Leclerc could start ahead of him. If Norris even gets 2-3 positions on him, then he could just run away with it, especially when we've seen in the first few laps that McLaren can be super strong as well. So in this articulate race I've got playing out in my head, I think it'll be a tight battle, but I'd say even if he gets close to him, Norris would also defend that tooth and nail around here. I'd see that car being good enough on the Red Bull, unless that new straight might be the downfall. Maybe on the second last lap, Norris gets overtaken on that new straight, and we go, remove it, get rid of it. maybe I'll go with my P3 then.
Go ahead.
I think this is maybe my last hurrah for him before maybe we put him down from the cards. But I have gone Alonso.
No.
Yes. I think I'm going to go Alonso. Yes. Yes, okay. Probably pertinent in this. If this is anywhere, again, that car's going to be strong for the remainder of the year, then it's probably going to be here. Although, Piastri's honestly sometimes shown better pace than Norris. And we've seen Hamilton's been quick, etc. Hey, I think this is maybe one just to go out on a few different limbs here before we get to. Exactly, but then then we got some more traditional circuits. I think I'm going to be a lot more safe with my picks here. So I do have a bit of a multicolored podium, but who knows what the future holds? We'll have to wait for a few days to find out. But who have you got to round out your trio?
I've also got a multicolored podium. I do not have, obviously I don't have Piastri, but I don't have Checo on the podium either. I have Lewis Hamilton.
Okay, yep.
Again, I expect the Mercedes to be quick. They've obviously come out and said they expect them to be quick as well.
Yep.
So, and given they said that, again, this is Mercedes like to big up and make everything worse than it actually is, but they said Monza was their worst weekend, and they got P5, P6, and it's like, bruh,
and showed pretty damn good race pace.
Exactly, yeah. So. If that's their worst weekend they've had all year, then if they're fucking not on the podium, then they're gonna Toto might actually commit suicide. Like he just commits seppuku right there.
Into the Marina Bay.
Yeah. I could see Aston up there as well. Like you say, I think this is their last chance to show that they still have a good car. I think they've just fallen off enough, or at least McLaren have sort of taken that from them, and Mercedes have just sort of progressively kept up. And I think both of those teams are quicker at this type of circuit than the Aston Martin now. And I think if Alonso's going to do it, he either needs something to play into his hands, or he needs to just have an absolutely incredible weekend. Or I'm wrong, and Aston has found something and they're quick again, and he's P2. And
there's always those unknown factors, but I think what you're saying is valid. I think it was a hard pick for me for P3 with this. We'll have to tune in. Make sure that you tune in as well, dear listener, to check out the race. It should, as I say, hopefully be a good one. But we will be back as always afterwards anyway to debrief all the potential chaos of the Singapore Grand Prix. But until then, you take care. Let us know your predictions if you have any, and we'll catch you next time. Take care for now.
Bye.